Sharon,
Yes.
it's Holly trying to call you back. Are you?
Oh, well, hey, Holly, how you doing, sweetie?
I'm good. Is this a good time or?
Oh, sure. Larry and I were just sitting here watching the Pope.
Oh, what did the? I didn't see anything. What did you see?
Well, he's at Madison Square Garden, and they just started the Mass just a little while ago. I'm
Oh,
not, we're not Catholic, but it's just, it's interesting to watch. I think it's enlightening, you know. So what's going
absolutely.
on, sweetie pie?
Well, I just wanted to call you back because we had to end our conversation the other night, and you were kind of in the middle of a story, and I just had to go.
Yeah. I can't remember what we were talking about.
Well, we were
Oh,
talking about Clyde. You said something about his dad was a drunk and a slacker, and Clyde had to fire his own
oh,
father.
yeah. Well, that's what mother always said. That his father was an alcoholic, and I guess I don't know when granddad's mother passed, but anyhow, they had come out west, to Oklahoma and all through there, and I guess he was working as a roughneck, when he first started out and
Yeah.
all. But anyhow, his father was with him at the time. I think there was a brother too that was also in the business. I have a magazine here. I'm going to run a copy of it, and I'm going to send it to you.
Okay.
And it describes a lot of what they were doing,
Oh, cool.
at that time, and when Granddad, came west.
Yeah.
But anyhow, there was a funny story. I think after Granddad and his partner had the refinery, and our great grandfather was working there at the refinery, and his job was to go around and read the meters. That's what his job was.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he'd get Aunt Mildred to drive him, and he'd be sitting in the back seat drinking. So Mildred would actually get out and read the meter and everything. I'm not sure that's what set off the next thing or not, but anyhow, Granddad eventually got mad enough. He'd had enough of his father's carrying on.
Yeah.
And he fired him. Well, Granddad's partner was a woman. I can't think of her name now, but anyhow, she told him, she said, "You can't fire your father," and she wouldn't let him fire him. You know, can you imagine firing your own father?
No.
But yeah, that was the story. But I believe Granddad had a brother.
Was it Thomas? Why am I thinking that?
I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look at that story I was reading in that. It was a trade magazine, and Granddad's picture is on the front of it. But they have his name wrong. They have C.L. Boggs, not C.M. Boggs on it. I'm sure that really pissed him off too.
I'm
You
sure.
know?
Yeah.
But anyhow, that was one of the stories, that I remember Mother telling me, about Granddad and
I wonder what
his
the
father.
M stood for Milton, but I wonder if that
Yes,
was a family name or.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it was or not. But I'm talking about Holland. Do you have Ancestry.com?
I do, and Johnny Boggs has got most of it on there, and I've got some of it on there, and I'm just looking for more of the stories like you're telling, not
Yeah,
just the lineage.
yeah, right. Well, I don't know as many as the others would, because we were in South Louisiana, most of
Yeah.
the time, and Johnny and Karen, and of course Susie's gone now.
Yeah.
But they were there in our Kansas City,
Yeah.
and I'm sure
Yeah,
they
I've
got
talked
a
to.
lot more of the stories, than the rest of us did. Now,
I've talked to.
my mother was kind of she wouldn't talk about a lot of things, and my father was the same way about his side of the family. In fact, I learned more about the Canulette side from my mother-in-law than I ever heard from
Wow.
my father.
Yeah, it seems
And
like the Boggs family is just tight-lipped and secretive and...
oh yeah, yeah. Well, Granddad had come out to Oregon in '65. It was either in late September or early October with Mildred, and for a visit. They were there either a week or 2 weeks. I can't remember now which it was.
Yeah.
But of course, Granddad would have that heart attack, or started having heart attacks, shortly after he went back to Kansas. I had wondered if he knew if he was going to pass.
Yeah.
It was very, very close, he looked fine when he was out there, and everything. And
how did they get there? Did they drive or fly?
Oh gosh, no, they flew.
They flew.
They
okay.
flew, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, in fact, I remember the story was when Granddad and Mildred were flying out, he told Mildred that if someone had told him when he was a boy that he would be flying several miles, I forget what, 5 or 6 miles above the earth going 600 miles an hour, he never would have believed it.
Wow, that's cool.
And of course that's true, because
Absolutely.
I mean, when he was born, that was 1880 when he was born.
Yeah.
And it was still pretty primitive. I mean, they had a mule, and they still had all the farm animals. Of course, cars wouldn't come in until he was probably about 25, I guess.
Wow.
If it was 05 to 010, he would have been 25, 30 years old.
Yeah.
And grandmother never did learn to drive. She never did.
Edna? Not Edna. Alba.
Alba Boggs, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she didn't need to back then.
No, she didn't. She had a chauffeur. And, Larry brought something up on the census. It looked like our great-grandfather was the chauffeur, at least for some time.
Really?
But I can remember our great-grandfather, Granddad's father.
Yeah.
And it looked like he listed his occupation as chauffeur.
What was his, do you remember his name?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
It's
I
on
don't
Ancestry.
But anyhow, I remember Granddad telling us, I think it was Granddad telling the story that he had a chauffeur, and it must have been a different man, I assume.
Well, he had some black gentlemen that worked for him. I don't know if it could have been one of them. There was one named Chloe or Chloe.
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, Sylvia was telling me.
Yeah, but anyhow, he had one chauffeur that would get into the liquor cabinet, and that he would water it down, so the levels always looked the same, But I can remember him telling the story one time. He used to get up long before the rest of the family did, And the cook would come in. I'm not sure who it was. It was a black woman, I believe. He could play mind games with you, though,
Oh, yeah.
And he would get up, and, he would already be up, and anyhow, the cook would come in, and she'd tell him that she would make the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And, bring him a cup of coffee. He'd be sitting there in the living room,
Yeah.
And anyhow, the next morning she got there a little earlier. Well, he would get up a little earlier. See, and he was always up before she was. And she was trying to beat him getting out of bed, so she could have the coffee ready for him.
Right.
And it was just a mind game. He was playing with her and everything. But I guess that went on for a week or so. I'm not sure exactly. But
I'm sure she never won.
Yeah, she could never get there early enough, to make the coffee.
He's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning or something.
He probably was. But there was also the story about him. It was when he was the president of the refinery. Anyhow, he would get up very early in the morning and go out to the refinery. And there was a man that was working, I guess he was a machinist or something. He was out there working with Granddaddy. Just went out and he was helping him, do whatever job he was doing. And they were just working together. Anyhow, the man's supervisor said to him, "We'd like to get you somebody else out here to help you. And do you know anyone here that could help you?" And he said, "Well, there's this man that comes in, in the morning and helps him." And he never told him who he was. And I guess he described the man, and he said, "Well, that's the president of the company."
Oh, whoa.
But Granddad would just go out in the plant and just work with his hands,
Yes.
But it was just a lot of little stories like that,
I love those little stories. Well, you were telling me you used to follow him around like a puppy dog.
Oh, I did. I followed, when we'd go up there, I'd follow him around like a puppy dog. He had a handyman that would come to the house and work with him. Or not work with him, but work for him. I can't think of the fellow's name.
Yeah.
But occasionally he also acted as a chauffeur, because I can remember being in the back. Granddad would be in the front seat with him, and I'd be in the back seat, with Mother or whoever was out there. But and I just followed him around the yard, while he was, doing whatever it was he was doing. He wasn't really working in the yard. He was just supervising or doing, whatever. But I just followed him around, just like a little child would,
You said something about
Did I tell you the story about the cigar room?
Yeah, that's where you left off.
Yeah. But I didn't remember that story until after I was married. Then I thought about it. Oh, I said, my God, he was really just pulling my leg with the thing. And I was taking the whole thing so serious,
And he
wanted me to remember that he'd given me this cigar ring. It was a ceremony almost. And he was just fooling with me, and I was taking it all real serious. Granddaddy, I'll always remember you gave me this cigar ring.
Well, and you remembered.
I did. I remembered it years later. It was after Larry and I were in Japan, and I remember thinking about that one day.
Aww.
But he was just he was a lot of fun, to be with and everything. And he used to go out and he could hand feed those squirrels that were out there. He had pecans, and he'd crack some pecans and take them out there. Of course, I'd go with him. I was just a little squirmy,
Yeah.
But he would hand feed those squirrels those pecans.
Where were you? Where?
At the house.
At Ark City?
Yeah, it was out the front door of the house, and all the squirrels there. And they knew him, and he'd just kneel or bend down a little bit, and the squirrels would come up and take the pecans out of his hand.
He just was such a, because we still do that out at the cabin. We feed the chipmunks, and they'll come right up to us. And
I declare, how about that?
Which I think they're actually called ground squirrels or something, but I call them chipmunks because that's what we grew up calling them. But it's funny how
Have y'all still got the cabin out there?
Huh?
Have y'all still got the cabin out in the creek?
Oh, yeah, it's still there. It needs a lot of work right now, but...
So now Jack's kids are still in partnership with y'all on that, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, Jenny has a share, Jenny has half the cabin, and Zan has the other half of the cabin.
Oh, I see. So they divided it up like that.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you something. What about Andy Watts? What do you know about him?
Well, he's in Arizona.
Oh, is he?
I've got a call in to Kathy, his ex-wife, and to John, his son, to try and get them, to get him to call me, because I really want to have a conversation with him about his memories. And but he kind of lives, I don't know if he's homeless or if he kind of lives in a trailer or what the situation is. But, after he got back from the war, he kind of got into drugs, and the Vietnam War, and I was telling somebody the other day that he probably had PTSD, but they didn't know what that was back then.
Yeah.
You know, so he probably was self-medicating with drugs and whatnot and what have you.
Yeah, well, he was an alcoholic. You know, Larry and I lived out in Corona and Riverside there for a number of years. And when we first got out there, you know, we'd go over, we'd spend an Easter Sunday with Jack and all the kids and everything. And Mother and Dad came down, and I remember they, who were we over there, Jack and Earlene's? I can't remember. But Andy, we always played when we were kids and everything. But when we were out there, Andy came out to the house one day, out to our house there in Riverside, and he had his dog in that old truck with him.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he came in, and he was talking, and he was telling me how he needed $500 for something. And he was trying to get me to offer him the $500. Well, I knew if I gave him any money, I'd never see it again.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I thought if he needed money, he could go to his dad.
Yes.
You know, but I wasn't going to give him any money. Well, anyhow, after a while, he got up and left, and that was the last time I ever saw him.
Oh, when was
but
that?
He was hitting me up for money, but I knew that I'd never see it again. And but you know, I think he kind of felt it was just the way you know, Edna was 19 years older than my mother.
Yes.
You know, so her. Jack and them were literally just, he was a whole generation even ahead of me, even though he was my first cousin.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But Andy was a year older than I am.
Oh.
And I think, you know, when Mildred died, you know, and the money was all divvied up among the cousins, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, Andy was left out because he was the next generation down. And I think, you know, it kind of grated him a little bit because of that. But I'm sure he was hitting Jack and Earlene up for money all the time. You know, he just was not living a productive life. You know, he was an alcoholic, and he just.
Well, alcoholism runs deep back into the genes of this family. You know.
Oh yeah, well, on the Canulette side as well.
Yeah, in all families.
Yeah, just about.
I remember my mom told me a story that Clyde told her, which was, if you're going to drink, you got to keep your wits about you. So, which, you know, is hard to do sometimes. But.
Well, Clyde didn't drink. Daddy said that Clyde couldn't hold his liquor.
Oh, really?
You know, and, you know, so I never really saw him drink. You know, we'd go out to dinner, and I think he'd have a cocktail.
Yeah.
You know, when they came down to the coast and all, you know, over there in Gulfport. And, you know, that wasn't too far from Slidell, and they always stayed there at the Markham Hotel. But I don't recall really ever seeing him drink.
I have slides of them at the Markham Hotel.
What's that now?
I have slides of them at the Markham Hotel.
Oh, okay.
So that was in Slidell?
Oh, no, it was in Gulfport.
That was in Gulfport, okay.
Yeah, it was in Gulfport. There wasn't any real hotels in Slidell, you know. There was a couple of dumpy places, but no place that they would stay, you know.
I wanted to
And
ask...
they would occasionally bring down some friends, and Billy Petroli and his wife. And they were Granddad was friends with them. He was a contender for the lightweight title in the 30s and 40s.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that at the time. Nobody ever told me anything, you know.
Yeah.
And Mr. and Mrs. Petroli would come down. And I know we'd sit around and we'd play some Dirty Eight with them, you know, that card game. And they would let us play, you know, us kids play a few hands with them then, and then we had to be pushed off to bed, you know.
Yeah.
But I always remember Mr. Petroli's hands were just huge. They were huge hands, him holding those cards, But I didn't know he had been a boxer. I didn't know that.
How do you spell? How do
They
you
were
spell?
delightful people.
How do you spell Petroli?
Petro. Shoot.
L.
Petro. Lelli. I'm guessing.
Okay.
So I'll find out though. You can probably look it up. He was never the lightweight champion. He was a contender for the title in the 30s and the 40s. I think he fought for it once or twice, and he was defeated. They were just delightful people. He owned a foundry in Minnesota, and of course they were retired, I believe, by the time they would be coming down with granddad and grandmother and all. But they were just delightful people, just super.
Sharon, do you, I have some slides of grandmother and granddaddy at a place called Bellingsworth Gardens in Alabama. Maybe
that's the Bellingrass Gardens in Alabama. Yeah.
Bellingsglass.
Bellingrass. Bellingrath. Gardens.
Okay. What? Oh, they're just stunning, beautiful pictures.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. That's a very famous place. It was very famous. When grandmother and granddad would go over there. In fact, one of the Bellingrath girls went to Gulf Park. And the reason I know that is because I was going to check out a book, and I didn't realize it was in Latin. But I saw her name on the little ticket, when you check out a book.
Yeah.
And the Bellingrath name on there, and it was from the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
I was there in 67, 68. But I thought that was kind of unusual. That book had never been checked out. It was still in the library.
Wow.
But, the Bellingrath Gardens, they were in Alabama. I can't think of exactly where. I think they were in Mobile someplace. What about the Bellingrath Gardens? Right. Where were they? Mobile? He thinks just across the bay from Mobile.
Okay. Yeah.
Over there. Yeah.
I think I looked it up or something and remember Mobile from somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Well, what about the Daughters of the American Revolution? Have you heard of any lineage to that?
Yes. Mother's, or actually Daddy's cousin, one of Daddy's first cousins in Slidell, Grace Cusimano was trying to get Mother involved in the DAR. And there was some research going back on that. Anyhow, I think now Aunt Grace had somebody that was in the Revolutionary War. He was just a troop, Yeah. But on the Boggs or the Swisher side, I'm not sure which, there was a general.
Oh.
There was a general, and golly, I can't remember. It kind of tweaked Daddy's cousin's nose. The mother really didn't care anything about the DAR. And but here she had a general on her side, and Aunt Grace just had a little private or something, Mm-hmm. But there's a connection there.
Well, what is the DAR?
Daughters of the American Revolution.
But what kind of an organization was it?
Well, it was in order to get in, you had to have a relative that was had fought in the American Revolution.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Not the Civil War, but the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, Daughters of the American Revolution.
Okay.
That's what it was.
And was it was it just for the ladies?
I think it was.
And was it like a
Daughters of the American? Yes, it was just the women.
And so was it just like a little social club, or?
I'm not really sure.
I can look it up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not real sure on that, Holly. Okay. Mother, I don't think Mother got involved in it. But we were, Sandra and I were, my daughter and I, just right on down the line, we were all eligible for that. But, I never got involved.
I mean, would I be eligible for that? Or, I mean,
Oh, sure.
you don't remember if it was the Swishers or the Bogs, but it was one of those
Well,
lines?
it wouldn't have made any difference, either one. You
Okay.
know, because we're descended from both of those. You know, you're my cousin's daughter,
Okay.
and you're the next step down. But sure, you would be.
Okay. Well, not that I would. I was just curious if.
Yeah,
And I wonder if it still exists.
I imagine it does.
But it's over east, isn't it? Or is it all over the United States?
I think it's all over the United States.
Okay.
I think it used to be a big deal years ago, but I don't. I haven't heard too much about it. You can look it up on the internet and see.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you wanted to get into it, you probably could. You just need to prove the lineage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because John Boggs said he tried to look around for that and he couldn't find anything. But he got stuck at some man named George Steck. Or, I'm sorry, John Steck, I think he said. Like
That's a relative further back. I think I remember seeing that online. The Steck name, and that's a relative, yeah.
But he couldn't get any lineage past that to where, back to Ireland or the Isle of Man and some other stories that he had heard. He couldn't get any documentation. So I'm going to have
Johnny would know more about that than I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know too much about that.
What about the Masons? Was Clyde involved in being a Mason at all?
I don't think I ever heard that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, he was involved in some things and all, but I don't recall him being involved in the Masons. And my granddad on the Canulette side was. He was
a Mason? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what else I found? I found a lawsuit the other day online of the United States government suing a bunch of the oil people, and Clyde was in there.
Yes. This was up in Wisconsin, I remember Mother saying. And he was being sued for price fixing, I think it was, by the federal government. And he wasn't ever found guilty of anything. He was acquitted.
Oh, he was. Okay, good.
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah.
Because I was trying to read the thing, and it was all in lawyer language, and it was like heretofore and the aforementioned, and I'm like,
Yeah. Well, you could probably ask Johnny about that. He may know something about that, but as far as I know, he was acquitted.
Well, what do you know about the Masons on your side?
Nothing really. Like I said, I learned more from my mother-in-law about the Canulette side than I ever heard from Daddy.
Yeah.
Well, he just never talked about all of that, and I'm sure True and the rest of them, Jane and Andrew, know even less than I do.
Yeah, it's all very secretive. It's a secret society.
Well, they were just closed mouth about everything.
Yeah.
The family business, everything.
Okay.
And like I said, on my father's side, I learned more from my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And my grandmother. I remember. I'll just tell you this because I didn't find out about this until a few years ago. Daddy's mother, she was a widow because Granddad Canulette died in 1937, I think, something like that. He had a massive stroke. Anyhow, eventually, my grandmother remarried, and I never had heard this at all, never. But grandmother died. She was on her yacht down at the shipyard down there. That's where they kept the yacht. Mm-hmm. Her yacht down there. Anyhow, she couldn't swim.
Oh.
But she fell off the boat, off the transom somehow, and drowned.
Oh, God.
And my father, of course, this was 1950. I was just a baby. And there wasn't any dive equipment then, Well, anyhow, they surmised what had happened, and Dad had to go down with his eyes closed, feeling around for her on the bottom of the bayou there. And eventually got her up. But it was ruled accidental. However, her sunglasses were on the transom.
So what does that mean?
Well, what it means is the same as if people are jumping off a building. If they have glasses on, they take them off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, now I'm not saying it was a suicide, but her second husband was after the money.
Oh.
And Daddy did tell me, though, that they had to pay him off.
Yeah.
You know, that's Louisiana law.
Oh.
Anyhow, but I guess she didn't realize he was marrying her for money.
Oh.
But I learned that from my cousins, and that's been since we came back here.
Yeah.
You see, I just never heard anything. You know, I mean, they were just very close-mouthed about everything.
Well, I'm sure.
You know, they just, that's just the way they were. They just didn't want to talk about anything. And now I did not know that until I was it was before we left Slidell. A friend of mine, you know, my father was known all over Slidell. Everybody knew my father.
Uh-huh.
And my father was divorced before he married my mother.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I did not know this. Now, something I never asked them, because it certainly would have started a fight if I had. At Gulf Park, you could not date a divorced man when I was there.
Wow.
I would assume that was in force in the 30s, though I don't know, you know, when she was dating Daddy. Now, my dad's sister went to Gulf Park, my Aunt Dottie.
Yeah.
And she introduced my father and mother together, see.
Oh.
But I did not know, you know, I found out it was just accidental. This friend of mine just very casually mentioned it. And, you know, it was just a normal conversation. I was just stunned because I didn't know it. Well, Dad was already in Oregon, and when I got up there, I asked him about it, and he said, yes, he had been married before. My mother jumped all over me because I found out. That was Mother's way of thinking, see. It was my fault that I found out.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Oh, yeah, that's where she was. Oh, she was a bear, honey. She was a bear to get along with.
And your mom was?
Celia Jane.
Celia Jane, yeah.
Now, she was very difficult to get along with. She caused me a lot of problems.
Oh,
when I became an adult and everything. She just caused me a lot of trouble.
Well, tell me a little bit about Celia Jane's personality and.
Well, I knew of me. You know, she had a horrific temper.
Okay.
And all the help knew it. And I can remember one day coming home from school, and we had she was half black, half white, lady that had taken care of Daddy when he was young, and was taking care of us. She was housekeeper, you know, babysitter, all this. But anyhow, I came in and Mary told me, she said, change your clothes and get a snack and then go outside. Don't go near your mother.
Oh.
And she told me why. That Dad had come home, and Mary heard Mother slam 3 doors behind her, and she could still hear her screaming at my father for whatever it was he did. I have no idea what he did.
Wow.
You know, but she had a horrific temper.
Yeah.
All the help knew it. You could see it in their eyes, you know, that they all called her Mrs. Canulette, but they called my father Mr. Dovey. See the difference?
Yes.
You know, but she was very difficult to get along with, and she just, as I can remember one summer I had sent Sandra up there to visit with them. When Sandra came back, she was probably about 11, 12 years old, well, 10, 11 years old, and Sandra says, Grandma sure does scream a lot. Aww. She yells all the time. And I said, yes, she does.
Aww.
But
Well, other people have said.
What I was getting at with my father being divorced, and he was from South Louisiana, and of course, my mother was from Kansas.
Yes.
And they only knew each other about a year before they married. I don't know that Granddad and Grandmother Boggs knew that my dad was divorced. I could not imagine them letting my 19-year-old, then 19-year-old mother marry a 22-year-old divorced man.
I wonder what the divorce. I wonder. He must have not been married that long, and I wonder why.
He was only married about a year.
Yeah.
And then he was divorced. Nevertheless, the way I got it was that Granddad was relying on Mildred to okay the marriage, you know. And of course, Daddy was all the women loved Daddy. They all did. He was very gracious and gentlemanly with all the women.
You're talking about Debbie, right? Yeah, I remember Debbie.
My father. Yeah,
he was like so. I feel like I want to say he was kind of funny and.
Oh, he was. He was just a lot of fun. He could be a lot of fun, but I think he had too much fun. Is what it was really.
Probably.
Oh goodness, he was just renowned. They were just. I mean, they partied all the time. He and Mother. But I don't think that Granddad knew that he had been divorced. I could not imagine those Midwestern people allowing that my mother, 19 years old, marrying a divorced man.
Well, it sounds like Celia. Well, if Celia Jane's anything like the rest of us women in this family, she's probably just a little stubborn and would have done it anyway. And
they probably would have, but Granddad had to okay the thing. But I don't think any of them knew that Daddy was divorced.
Well, they probably didn't.
They probably didn't, but I didn't even think about that until after they had all died, and there's no one there to ask. But even if I had asked my father that question, did Granddad Boggs know that you were divorced? He probably would have lied to me.
Yeah.
But he and Mother were not always truthful about just a lot of different things. For example, I am the oldest. I am Sharon Lee. All the rest of my sisters and brother were given family names.
Okay.
And when I got old enough to realize that I did not have a family name, I remember asking my father, why don't I have a family name? And he said, well, we just like the name Sharon Lee. That was not the reason.
Oh.
And I did not find out the reason until one of the last times I saw my father. And he told the story that when I was born, I knew that I'd been on an incubator for 2 weeks. But I did not realize that they did not expect me to live at all.
Oh, wow.
But I had, I was a tough baby, like I'd like to say. I must have been a real tough baby. But anyhow,
you proved them wrong on that, didn't you?
Oh, I sure did. But I weighed about 4.5 pounds when I was born.
Oh, gosh.
I was very, very small. And of course, they didn't have all the equipment they got now,
Yeah.
So I was pretty much on my own in an incubator, but I survived. Anyhow, that was the reason I didn't have a family name. I've lived long enough to where, we're going to have to name the child.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to use up a family name.
Well, that's weird.
I figured that out on my own after Dad told me, that we didn't expect you to live.
I have 2 other questions, Sharon, and then I got to get going. But one question is, was there any religion or spiritual stuff in our family? And, crud, now the other question just flew out of my head.
All right, you mean what religion was Boggs family? I think they were Episcopalian.
Episcopalian, yeah, that's what I was baptized. I remember I used to have a little thing that said that.
Yeah. Now, my father's family had been Catholic, but my grandfather left the Catholic Church, and went to the Presbyterian church. So we were raised in the Presbyterian church.
Okay. Oh, the other question was your mom ever very affectionate towards you, like hugs and I love yous and things like that?
No, there was none of that.
Anybody else? Was Clyde like that? I mean,
I don't know.
Okay.
But, you know, you are what you are raised.
Yes.
And unless you break the chain.
Yes.
And my counselor told me on many occasions, you broke the chain.
Yes.
You know, Mother she was very difficult. She would, if you were doing something that, it wasn't wrong, but she just would not have done it. You would get this wealth business, you know, the Midwestern, the wealth thing, and just be purse her lips and be very disapproving of whatever it was you were doing, you know. And she was just very overbearing like that, and very difficult. And she was physically violent, too. I can remember going into the bathroom many a time with her handprint on my cheek, you know, from slapping me for whatever it was I had done. Now, I never did. I broke the chain, the counselor told me.
Yes.
Because I did not raise my child like that.
Now, my mother only ever spanked me one time when I stuck my tongue out at her.
Oh, my goodness.
But, I mean, that was out of my whole life, just one time.
Well, I don't know how Mother was raised, but, you know, she was the youngest and everything, and I think there was a mean streak in that family, though. There was just a mean streak.
Yeah, there are mean streaks. You know, I've heard stories that Edna was kind of mean to some people.
She was.
Elizabeth was kind of mean to some people. And listen, I've been mean to some people, let me tell you.
Well, you know, Elizabeth, none of them. I mean, she was the black sheep, really. None of them got along with Elizabeth. And, you know, when Mildred died, you know, George Croner Jr. had already passed. You know, he passed in the 70s.
Yes.
One of my cousins. And anyhow, Mildred specified in her will that only the surviving nieces and nephews would split the estate. And that was a real needle, you know, to Elizabeth, I'm sure. You know, but George Croner was even meaner than she was. George Croner Sr.
Yes.
He was an alcoholic, too, I believe.
Yeah.
But those two, they were just mean people. You know,
did your mom drink?
Oh, yeah. She drank like a fish, but not like my daddy. My daddy drank a lot more than what she did. But they partied all the time. You know, that.
Yeah, because that alcohol.
They had the money then, you know, and everything. And she was spoiled rotten. You know, she was just spoiled rotten. And she just partied.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
She probably didn't have to endure some of the hardships that the older sisters and brother.
No, she didn't. No,
she was probably more spoiled than, you know.
Well, it was my understanding that Edna and Mildred were born in a log cabin with a dirt floor. That was my understanding.
In Ohio or Pennsylvania or somewhere up there.
Well, I'm not sure where they were. I can't get stuck in my chair here. My hands going to sleep. There we go.
Uh-oh.
I'm not sure. I've got Mildred's Bible. I'll look it up.
Okay.
And I'll take a text picture of of everything there so that it's legible, and I'll text it. I'll text it to you.
I think I have a Bible of hers too. I have somebody's.
Do you really?
I have somebody's Bible.
Yeah.
I'll have to go pull that out. I completely forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Oh, it had when they were all married, you know, and that kind of stuff on it. But I'll pull it out tonight and see if I can get a picture. This phone you're on now is your cell, right?
Correct. Yeah, I can get a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great, Sharon. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, honey, that's all right. Now, just a second. Larry's trying to... You're connected on Facebook with Larry, aren't you?
I think so. I'm on Facebook, so yeah.
Yeah, well, Larry's real big into genealogy and all ancestry. Hang on a second. He wants to talk to you for a minute. Okay. Hey, Holly.
Hi, Larry.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you, honey?
Not doing too bad since I had this tooth pulled out and the implant put in up there right now. Just trying to get over the soreness of it.
Oh, was that recent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that done Tuesday. Matter of fact.
Wow. You're just in initial recovery stages then.
That's it. But anyway, hey, Holly, I've seen you out on Facebook, and you're sitting here talking about genealogy research and everything.
Yeah.
Now, did you send in a DNA sample to Ancestry.com?
I have not. Have you had any experience with that?
Yes, I did. I sent some in, and Holly, you all see the people I'm connected with. There is, last time I looked, 163 pages of 50 people per page they say I'm related to out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and all it is, you order the kit, and it's just saliva that you're sending into them.
Yeah, I know. You just swab your cheek or whatever.
Oh, no, this is strictly saliva.
Oh, okay.
Ancestry.com, yeah.
Okay.
And they'll come back and tell you, like, for example, mine says you're 38% Eastern European, 36% British, 20% Irish, and 5% other stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How much did that set you back? Do you remember?
That one, when I ordered, was $100, but if you watch it, you can get them when they be having sales on it and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about the bogs and everything there, I think, and now I've done some research over there and I've come up with some names, pictures, and cemeteries and stuff like that and all.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, in Ark City?
Yes.
Yeah, we have all that stuff.
Yeah, and also I got some coming in from Pennsylvania where they moved in from, too.
Oh, you do? Oh, I'd like to see those, for sure.
Yeah, that was on the census information. I found all that information.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what I do. My computer is down right now. We're remodeling that room back there. We got everything out of there.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll get the room cleaned up and get the ground molding up this weekend, and I'll get my computer back up, and I'll send you my email address on Facebook and everything, and then we can share information like that if you want.
Oh, that'd be great, Larry. Yes, yeah, and you can send me links to any Find Graves or anything that you come up with, or.
Oh yeah, and some people have seen pictures out there of it.
Wow, that's so great.
Now I don't know are you a paying member or just signed on to it?
I'm not a paying member right now. I did that free trial a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I'm not a paying member right now, Larry. I can't afford it right this second.
Okay, well, see, I am a paying member.
Okay.
And so I got access to a lot of that. Matter of fact, I have access to the newspaper that they have and military stuff and all.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I got to remind Sharon to transfer some money over. My 6-month renewal is coming up this month.
I think maybe, I don't know if there's a military man, a picture of a military man that we found out at the cabin. It's not named. There's no name on the back. There's no nothing. Just the picture. I just recently discovered the man was in the 40s, in World War II, some sort of a pilot. But maybe I can text that to Sharon. Does she get pictures on her phone?
Yes, she does.
Okay, and see if you guys can help me identify who the man is, because he's a mystery man.
Okay. Well, those are the best kind to look for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, he looks so much like me. I'm just wondering who he is.
Yeah. Sharon talked about they never talked about each other. I'm finding the same thing on the Pittman side of the family. They just never flipping talked about each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a lot of times when I'm researching stuff, I'd like to get into New Orleans newspaper and see who died. Oh, well, here's a Pittman that died. Well, his father was this. Oh, I know them. He's a relative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
but
anyway, I want to touch base with you. Like I said, once I get the computer up, I'll send you my email address.
Great.
And we'll share stuff and everything.
That sounds great, Larry. Thank you so much. And listen, Larry, I have to go. Will you just send Sharon my love? and tell her that we'll talk again real soon.
Okay, I will do, Holly.
Okay, love you guys and talk to you later.
All right, y'all take care up there.
All right, bye.